Hello everyone, Baron Red here, and for those of you who don't know me, I'm a community moderator here at BCL, and today I've been asked to answer a question that has been bugging the Battlefront 2 competitive communities, which is, what is illegal movement? Or more simply, what is movement? This, by the way, is what I will be referring to it as for the rest of the video so I don't confuse anyone. Before I get started on this topic, I want to go over a few disclaimers first. First of all, this video is not just my take on the issue. The whole BCL staff has contributed one way or another in making sure this video is as accurate as possible, mostly by helping with the classification of clips and definitions I'm going to present. Secondly, regular members of this server may see a clip of themselves, or a few, but please don't get mad at me for this. You just happen to have a lot of clips of yourself using movement. Finally, there won't be a perfect way to differentiate the different types of movement. This is because there will never be a specific angle or distance traveled to define movement. It will always need to be taken on a case-by-case basis. But with the examples presented in this video, hopefully you all have a better understanding of what movement looks like and to not be surprised when you're called out for it. Alright, let's get to the actual definitions. Movement can be defined as intentional inputs meant to abuse hitbox mechanics due to lag. This can be broken down into three categories: not movement, which is legal; light movement, which is intentional but not blatant and is illegal with flag; and hard movement is intentional and blatant and illegal with or without flag. However, let's start with not movement and get it out of the way first. Not using movement just means that you're moving in a way in which your hitbox will not be abused, which is basically 99% of the ways you can move in this game. The clips you are seeing now are some examples of this, but I won't dwell on these for too long since the concept of not using movement usually isn't too hard for players to grasp. Next up is light movement, and this is the type of movement that will not get you in trouble unless you're holding a flag. This movement can often be categorized by a large amount of zigzagging and sharp turns, but we have not quite reached the level of violent spinning or turns with sprints. Here's a good example of light movement by Legit from both his and my perspectives. Notice how he turns in a way that abuses his hitbox's position, and only when he stops here to pick up flag am I able to kill him because he tries to slow down and turn around. This movement did result in a loss of a cap for Legit's team for his actions because he touched flag while using this type of movement. But if he had not touched flag or tried to touch it, most likely there would have been no penalty for his movement. However, this category of movement is overshadowed by the commonality of the next classification: hard movement. Hard movement is the type of movement in which no matter if you're carrying flag or not, you will get in trouble for using. This is the type of movement that can be categorized by violent spinning, zigzagging, sharp turning, and makes you look like you have your DPI set to maximum for a few seconds. Let's start with the example of Panth using movement from the POV of spectator cam and my own. In the spectator cam here, you can clearly see that the camera suddenly had a hard time tracking Panth as he goes up the stairs, and this is always a good sign that somebody is using movement, as the in-game spectator cam follows your hitbox and not your model. However, this also means that the spectator cam is susceptible to error. So looking at it more clearly from my point of view, you can see that as he ascends the stairs, he starts to violently use movement to the point where my shots are unable to accurately hit his hitbox. And his relative position is also somewhat different from the spectator cam to my POV as a result. It's also good to note that Panth's team did lose a flag cap because of this. Another good example of hard movement is this clip from Legit's POV. In this clip we can clearly see that time is running out, and in a last-ditch attempt to cap the flag, Legit performs several small violent turns so that his hitbox is almost impossible to hit, as demonstrated by Dark Rider clearly hitting his shots, Legit taking 0 damage, then Legit being able to run the flag in while Dark Raider sits there in anger.
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine, but you just can't get into it because they would never understand.
We can also see a distinction from Legit's earlier light movement clip by his more numerous and sharper turns, creating a good example of the distinction between hard and light movement. I want to close out this video with some final points. First of all, a common theme with movement is that since it's hitbox abuse, it is tough to accurately determine movement 100% of the time. This is mostly due to spectator limitations, so the best way to potentially absolve yourself of all accusations is to record your POV, especially when running the flag. If you are a player constantly edging the line as to what's deemed movement and what isn't, I would consider this even more, so that admins won't have to judge you based on someone else's POV. Secondly, if you max out your DPI and start spinning like crazy, you are using movement. It does not matter what your DPI settings are. If you look like this, or this, using it, then you are using movement, and there are no excuses from now on with it. Staff does not want to hear people keep arguing that it's just because of high sensitivity or DPI, and so they can't be punished for movement, but from now on staff will be for sure treating everyone's movement equally, no matter what your sensitivity settings are. Finally, many of you saw that droidekas are banned for this summer's major tournament. This is because on top of the movement types demonstrated above, this class has a notoriously unstable hitbox, making distinguishing which movement is being used difficult and providing a higher chance of hitbox abuse, along with a higher level of difficulty with hitting the droideka in the first place. So I figured I'd give a short explanation as to why it's banned while we are here on the subject of hitbox abuse and movement. So thank you guys for watching and being patient while this video was being made, as this was a touchy subject and we wanted to make sure we got it right. And remember, if you have any concerns or think you spotted movement while you play with us, don't be afraid to reach out to staff. It's what we're here for. Just remember, not everyone is perfect, and staff isn't getting paid to do this. But till next time, this is Baron Red, and I'll see you around.